feel like the countdown coming up into the recording, we should like start singing. 3, 2, 1.
2, 1. Well, Sean,
Hey, Brian.
here we are. I've got a music video to play you
Okay.
by
All
the
right.
band. It's by the band Staat.
Start.
Yes,
Okay.
and I'm gonna play you their song and music video called "Kitty Kitty." It's cute.
a nice,
It's a
cute
cutie.
little cartoony. Like
Yeah,
this will be a little like bluey, be a bluey experience for me.
it's definitely got the blue part of that.
Okay. All right.
The color blue, anyway. Let's see. Are you ready? Here we go.
I'm ready.
choice, genie. I get on top, see me. I got me stoned, easy. I got the people needy. You swear me in, feed me. Long live the enemy. Yeah, kitty kitty, the fantasy. Make it feel real. Sing that simple melody. I am the remedy. I am reality. Eat it up, eat it all up.
Oh, Brian. Brian.
Mm.
Oh, Brian. Why do you do this to me? Um, ah, Staat, huh?
Yeah, to start.
What's the name of the lead singer? I'm going to reference him a lot, and I don't want to just keep calling him lead. I
Oh,
can just keep calling him lead.
yeah, let's see.
Kitty
Um,
Kitty.
Tori Florim is his
Tori.
name.
Tori.
Tori Florim. They're Dutch, by the way.
Okay.
If that makes
So
any
an outsider looking in on
on
using
something. Yeah.
probably, I would say, using our country's politics to explore what's going on in a lot of the rest of the world, right? Including
Yeah.
especially in Europe as well. Just seeing a lot of these
Yeah.
parallels. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's almost like sci-fi of hey, I can talk about what's going on in my current time by saying that I'm not talking about what's going on in my current time. I'm talking about the other guy. So I
Right.
wonder, wouldn't be surprised if Destat is talking about what they're feeling there, as opposed to just kind of commenting on what's going on over here. And I'm being
Yeah.
very assumptive that I'm understanding the references to say that he's very much talking about what's going on here. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, you did warn me that you were going to throw a political song at me at some point, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming this is it.
That would be it. Yep. Yep.
So a fine line here that you're asking me to walk. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so clearly, very talented group of musicians, very intentional in their rhythms, intentional in their repeats,
Yeah.
in what they're trying to establish as repeats, and often repeats with subtle differences. Um, uh, yeah, and just really good musicians. Really,
Yeah.
they kind of know what they're doing. This is another
Yep.
song that plays a little bit against type. It's a song about anger that has a fun beat to it.
Yes.
Dang it, I
Yeah.
really, yeah, I like them. I could listen to this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and this is one of those things like, oh, I could listen to this in the background, but it would eat its way into the foreground thematically. Um, yeah, I don't have the lyrics in front of me, and maybe that's a good thing that I don't have the lyrics.
Okay. I
Um,
just mailed them to you,
you
so if you
did?
want them,
Okay.
you
Yeah,
can snag them if you want to
let
grab
me open
those.
this up to snag them. Kitty Kitty. I'm a little afraid of Kitty Kitty. So I'm not going to talk about what that might be a reference to unless something different comes to my mind. Big deal maker, orange entertainer, swap it up, gator. Um, uh, yeah, we know what they're
Hmm.
talking about. Okay, so
Yeah.
we start though with these tones, with these long tones that are reminiscent a bit of the score of 2001, Space
Hmm.
Odyssey. Just kind of these, except more electronified. Um, that does give us this a little bit of a sci-fi vibe, a little bit of a nightmarish vibe, a little bit of a night gallery, Twilight Zone vibe in a way. Um, that kind of gives us a little bit warning before the beat kicks in,
Yeah.
and then the repeated push in, which I thought, oh, this is an
Yes.
interesting way to begin. And turns out, well, it's not beginning. It's this is this is going to be the motif, and that slow, wicked smile. I mean, that's uh, uh, the smile itself is very evil, which is, I guess, a good, uh, um, a very telling kind of a thing. Juxtaposing, oh yeah, and the thumb,
Yeah.
and the many ways of using the thumb, which again is reminiscent both of the guy that he's talking about, his past and bringing it into the future, which is funny. The use of the thumb. Um, Man, I'm trying to not say his name out loud. I'm I have to just kind of to set the tone for anybody who's listening in. I am a moderate Republican, so know that about me. Um, I am not a fan of the former president, and I'm certainly not the level of fan of the former president that says that. It's impossible. It's technically, ethically impossible for him to be immoral or for him to be criminal. Um, so that's where I'm coming from. So
Yeah.
haters, start in. Take it out on Brian. Don't take it out on me. He
Yeah.
made me say
Well,
this. Uh,
I'm a moderate independent. So
there you go. Okay.
there you go.
Um, Yeah, so the thumb thing is kind of a fascinating reference um, to use. It is the you're fired reference turned into a whole bunch of other things, including the speaking with the thumbs, um, and it's of course a draw to ancient Rome, to the gladiators, and to the emperor. In watching it, he could decide who lives and dies by his thumb action. Right, the thumb
Yep.
is the determiner, and I do find that fascinating sitting here in 2024, and being somebody who remembers um, uh, the reality TV star, and seeing even then the echoes of being set up as the emperor, the decider of people's fates, um, country's fates, whoever's fates, right? Because he's definitely one of the things that defines the current political landscape, um, is the concept, and we're constantly talking about, which would have been unheard of publicly doing this, but we're constantly talking about revenge. We're constantly talking about we'll get those guys. We're talking about
Hmm.
oh, the people who are not loyal to me, we will punish them. They will be punished. They will be taken care of. So we are in this world of where we're more openly talking about individual fates, along with country fates and political, statewide fates. So I thought that the thumb thing and the use of the thumb doing several different things, um, was an intriguing choice by theirs. Um, it's a very simple melody. It's not musically complex. The melody itself, which is lovely. The complexity is what's happening under the melody, and
And
the
look at
repet
the third stanza of the
that we
lyrics.
begin with comedy, make it feel real, sing that simple melody. He says it right there. Yeah, which is a big part of it, right? That's the whole strategy. Is it's got to be on a bumper sticker. any thought that you can't fit on a bumper sticker is not a thought worth having. It's a thought to actually destroy. And we see that a lot in politics. We see that on both sides, on all sides
Yeah.
of if anything requires nuance, it must be destroyed or mocked or gotten rid of. Anything that requires anything that's not simple. If we were to say, well, this situation has some nuance to it, or this situation has very, no, not allowed. It's completely simple. And you constantly repeat the simple thing, you repeat it over and over, and you mock anything that is not simple. You mock anything that requires more thought, and the simple takes over. This is a strategy that's been used for hundreds of years um, of the sloganism. The sloganism replaces, right? Sloganism starts by standing in for an idea, and then it replaces the idea. Better dead than red. Tippecanoe and Tyler too. You can go pretty much anywhere in the U.S. history, and you're going to find these sloganisms and how the slogans became more than. And I find that fascinating. And they're using it here, so I don't feel like I'm getting too far off track with this. There's a lot of slogans that we live by that the slogan has replaced the ideal, in that even part of the slogan has replaced the ideal. So, what is the jack of all trades, master of none, right? Which we know means, this is somebody who's mastered a little bit about a lot of things, but he's not a master of any one thing, and that's bad, right? We don't want that. Except that the entire phrase is jack of all trades, master of none, but better than that, than master of one. So the actual phrase says it's better to be a jack of all trades than to be such a specialist that you only see one thing. Right? So yeah, it's better to be a master of a bunch of trades, right? But if you're not going to be a master of all the trades, the next best thing is to be a jack of all trades. And we have turned that into, being a jack of all trades rather than a master of one is an awful thing. And this is the strategy here of the simple melody, is it replaces the complexity. I love that they did keep a lot of changes and complexity going on underneath. So they're not the speaker is the speaker understands that what they're saying is what will get them power, and they understand that what they're saying is not truth. And I love that in this song. It makes me very, very uncomfortable because, again, I like to dance to it. Right? He loves to dance to it. We all dance to it.
Did you notice his dancing was also pugilistic?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. So let's we begin with comedy. Here's the strategy: begin with comedy, make them feel, make it real and simple, and then we can screw the facts. Once we've done that, then we don't need truth anymore. Once we've made it real to them, we don't need truth anymore. And beginning with comedy, right, which is really the walkthrough. It's like he got so far in his initial run because he was just the joke. Nobody took him seriously, so nobody was trying to knock him out of the race early on. In fact, there were several Republican candidates who were trying to keep him in the race. Because it deflected off of anybody, thinking too much about them. They could always make the Trump joke or whatever. There, I said his name. We'll edit that out. We'll edit that out later. But that was a big part of what kept him in for so long, is the people who could have knocked him out were not taking him seriously. Make it feel real. This is I teach our Com 130 class every now and again at Asbury, and we talk a lot about media and media influence, and that's a lot of what the class is about. But the strategy is, if you can get an emotion trumps intellect all the time. It's always going to, if you tell somebody, here's the fact, Tylenol was never it was never actually tainted. It was never there was never a problem. They go, okay, that's true. We all agree it's true. And then you put one mom weeping because her baby died from tainted Tylenol, then everybody believes the Tylenol was tainted. You could show all the evidence; doesn't matter. You could show right. There are a lot of things throughout history that we to this day believe were absolutely true that have been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt never happened, and it doesn't matter because it feels real, right? So marching us through this progress, and I think this is what Destat is doing to us, is walking us through the step by step to where we get to the final battle. And a part of it is starting here with the make it feel real, sing that simple melody. We'll be the remedy, right? That's the whole thing. Is we're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix everything. Um, um, that's the promise because they're the problem, and I love the they're the problem thing. We had this with the whole anti-education movement among the conservatives in my branch. The whole you can't trust the intellects, you can't trust the educated, you can't trust the Ivy Leaguers. Full disclosure, I got my MFA from Columbia, so here I am in my ivory tower. Long story, I didn't pay for it, but I still got it from there, right? And proud of it, proud of the education I got. But we can't trust those. We can't trust the Ivy Leaguers. Now, the irony to me always was, and at that time I wasn't very vocal about it because it was my party, and they were doing such a good job at it. Is I would just laugh because we would have a presidential candidate who is a graduate from Yale University giving a speech about how we can't trust the other guy who came from Harvard because we can't trust Ivy Leaguers. Right? And nobody questioned it. Nobody said boo about it. Nobody said, what the heck what are you talking about? But the problem is we have to define, right? We define the problem and then we're the solution to whatever that is. And so if the problem is intellectuals and Ivy Leaguers, then we're not. And can we prove that we're not? Don't look at my transcripts. I'm telling you that I'm not. I'm not using the same vocabulary that they're using, right? I'm going to drink a beer instead of a martini. That's how we're going to prove that I'm not that person. Which is why you can get somebody who keeps claiming to be a billionaire, talking on he's the only one who represents he's the only one who understands the little guy, right? Right, because truth doesn't matter. We F up our facts. So then he was doing the O on the repetition. The constant repetition is very interesting to me because it took me a long time, especially by the time we get to the mirrors and we're growing, the movement is growing, and again they're visually representing that. I can't remember where in the lyrics that it takes place, but long live the enemy. That's another line that I love because so politicians live and die these days by the enemy, right? We're rarely ever going to hear a politician give a speech about what they're for. We're only going to hear them give speeches about what they're against. And they will do anything in their power to make sure the enemy does not go away. Right. Which again is another one of these ironies that we have of, this thing is evil. You got to get me into office so I can get rid of this thing. Now I can safely say this about our upcoming election is that both guys have already been in the office. So anything that either guy says is something we need to get rid of that he didn't get rid of in the 4 years he was in office is it's kind of like, go to your doctor so they can diagnose you, and you go to the doctor for a year and they never diagnose you, and then you go, I'm going to go to a different doctor, and they're like, no, come to me, I can diagnose you. It's like, then just do it. If you really believe it, just do it. Long live the enemy. So we create our enemies here in this country. Our biggest enemies that our politicians are talking about all the time are not real anyway. They're not real threats anyway. There's one guy in Florida who is doing this one thing. and therefore we need to hire a president to take care of that one thing that one guy in Florida is doing. We have this other thing that's going on that's actually affecting millions. But we're not going to talk about that because then somebody's going to say, do something about it. And we're going to have to say, well, we don't know what to do about it. We were in office for 4 years and we had no clue what to do about it. Right. So we create our enemies and then we have to keep them going. Now, I don't know if here the lyric "Long live the enemy" is self-referential, long live me, or if it is the enemy that we're creating. It doesn't matter. Yeah, kitty cat catch up reality will be the remedy. Yeah, so I'm not. I didn't really catch a lot of the lyrics going through. A lot of them are repeat anyway. But we get to the mirror. So we get to the mirror, and what I wanted to say about that was it took me quite a while to realize they weren't doing mirrors. And this was, whoa, this was cool. When you realize, because the mirror effect is great. Oh, how do we need to show a crowd? We take one thing and we cut and paste it and cut and paste it, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Right. And then we've got a huge crowd. But they weren't in sync. And I realized, oh, we're not cut and pasting. We're actually growing the number of people involved here. And now we've got this really cool symbol. Because the band did not choose to hire 10,000 extras or 1,000 extras. There probably weren't more than 300 ever in one shot, but they're trying to make us feel like there were more. They didn't hire 300 extras. They chose to stick to the band and cut and paste in a way, but copying. So it wasn't cutting and pasting. It was creating a new copy of the same people, but they were different. They were behaving differently. They were moving differently. They weren't in sync with each other, and that's just a lovely, lovely choice on their part. He had this part in the middle that when he was singing, when he was dancing, I think it was actually during an instrumental while the band was still playing. And we'll get to that differentiation soonish. But I noticed he was the only one dancing. The singer's the only one dancing. And the others aren't perfectly still. Some of them are bopping a little bit and moving a little bit. But that choice of the only one, the one who's propagating these words, is the only one that's dancing to them. Is also very cool, kind of a concept, right? Of the person giving these words knows that they're not true. They know that this is not a good thing in a moral sense. They know that what they're doing. They know they are manipulating. They know that they're taking others and they're forcing others to feel things that the others don't want to feel, even though that the person speaking them doesn't necessarily feel them himself.
And his the expressions on everyone else progressively get more and more angry.
Yeah.
But he's like happy.
His happy and happy within his evilness, with the sinister. Maybe not evil so much as sinister, right? And the sinister enjoying what he's doing, enjoying the response he's getting, enjoying what's happening there. Okay, so I believe throughout there's a lot of color switches. It looks like gel switches or color tones. I can't speak to that. I'm partially colorblind, so I didn't even notice them for the longest time that we were changing colors. So somebody else will have to speak to the colors and the color progressions. So I'm going to take a pass on that.
Okay, the two main colors are red and blue.
Oh, well, okay, there you go. Yeah, let's be on the nose about that,
too. It goes back and forth between the red side and the blue side.
And the blue side.
And the funny thing is they're both the same people, right?
Yeah.
They're against fighting themselves.
Yeah. They're fighting themselves. And they really, well, I'll get to there in a little bit. Make sure I talk about that. The divide. I don't know where this is, and I can't read my handwriting. But there's a huge long bridge part where they're playing really long, holding really long notes on the lead, while the bass and the drums, initially just the bass keeping a rhythm, the drums just keeping a beat, and then the drums get more and more involved, and everything underneath gets more and more involved. And again, I think it's mirroring what's happening with the lead singer being detached. He's doing his own thing, and this is the response underneath, and that growing response underneath, just musically, was very, very strong. And then they cut away from the band playing, so we still have the band members, but they're no longer creating music. So we get these shots, and again, we're going to do the same thing of this take the same group and then multiply it, but they're different, but they're the same, kind of a thing. But we've chosen they're no longer playing, they're no longer creating music, they're no longer creating art, they're no longer participating in creating the conversation. And I think that is a very cool metaphor for when we get to that point where we're no longer creating conversation, we're just repeating mindless phrases to each other, right? This is our Twitter arguments or our in the comments arguments, where all we're doing is repeating our leftist phrase up against the rightist phrase, and just repeating the phrases. We're not creating anything new. We're not getting any deeper. We're not even trying to understand each other at that point. We're just there. We're not creating anymore, which again is a huge problem that we have. Is we can't. We're almost at a point where for a lot of these things, it's like, well, what's the solution? It's like, who cares? Nobody cares about the solution. Nobody's trying to solve anything. We're just trying to destroy the other guy. We're just trying to destroy the other thing. We once did this little experiment with a headline, and we I said, so here's the headline: the president has cured cancer. What is our response? And it, various people jumped in with various things until somebody said, which president? Are you talking about the current one, or you're talking about the other one? Because I don't know how to respond to cancer has been cured unless I know who we're giving the credit to. So the news organizations have to have two responses to everything that could possibly happen. One is praise for this magnificent leader who solved this problem, and the other is attacking this magnificent leader who just put all of these people who work at drug companies and medical professionals out of business. They're destroying our economy, right? We don't know how to respond because we're no longer we're no longer creating. We're no longer trying to find solutions together. Long live the enemy. So then, and then we get to the running, right? And this is where what you were talking about, they're the same people, whether they're blue, whether they're red, they are the same people. And they did such a beautiful job. Whoever directed and edited this video did a beautiful, beautiful job with it. And it's nonstop repetition without things actually repeating. Because everything is changing and building, right? So to do a lot of repetition without building. We just introduced somebody to the show that goes wrong. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. It's just a silly thing about a theater company where everything goes wrong. But they have one that takes place. It's a courtroom drama, and within the courtroom drama, they replay the same scene, the murder. The scene 3 times with 3 different variations. The first one is showing, yes, the defendant murdered him. And then the second one is the defendant saying, no, it was an accident. And then the third one, when they discover that the murder victim's wife was there. It's like, but it's the same scene with the same dialogue all the way up until the last line. And the beauty of the Goes Wrong show is they found ways to do the same exact scene 3 different times in 3 completely different ways, and by messing up the sets. So the set, the way it comes together, the living room, all the sets come together from the left and the right, and it forms the living room with the half of the couch. And they also have a set that takes place in the morgue and a set that takes place in a gym as they're doing workout. And when they come back the second time to the living room, they accidentally get half the morgue and half the living room. And then when they come back the third time to the living room, it's half the morgue and half of the gym. And so the setting completely changes. Wow, that was, man. I went way away from this song. Sorry, sorry, folks. But the beauty of the editor is that the repetition is not repetitious. We're
Right.
constantly moving within our repetition, and a great job with that. And then a brilliant job when they're running. We're getting these constant close-ups of somebody running in from the left, and then a close-up of the person they're running against, or they're about to collide into on the right, and we're constantly going back and forth, and it's always the same person. So it's not, because they could easily have had, oh, here's the drummer running in, and here's the bass player, and here's the electric guitar guy, and here's the second guitar. And I didn't really pay attention to who all they were, but you could easily be mixing them up and constantly mixing them up for the very thing that I was just saying. So it doesn't feel repetitious at all. But instead, it was very clear it's the drummer running against running into the drummer,
yep.
clashing with the drummer. It is the guitarist clashing with the guitarist. It's the bass player clashing. It is ourselves against ourselves. It is not us against the other, even though we're trying. The whole point is that we're saying it's the other, and that's why we have to destroy them. That final surge to a clash, there is no clash. It's just a still shot of Tori standing there. Doesn't need to show us the carnage, leaving us to fill in the carnage ourselves, leaving us to fill in. This is one thing, when you know story structure, you know how to pervert it to have an effect on an audience. So story structure, this is my big theme, is that story structure is built into us. There's no such thing as this guy came up with a story structure and then he introduced it and everybody's like, oh, I like that structure. Let's do it that way. There's a basic story structure, a beginning, a middle, and an end that we're always looking for. And everything builds to a climax. In fact, the hero's journey calls the climax scene. They call it the necessary scene or the required scene, because it's required that we build up to it. It's required that we have this scene. This is what everything is built up for. You can't not have this scene unless you're not a very good writer and you screw up, or you're a very good writer and you're trying to force the audience to create that scene because it's required. So it's going to happen whether we cut before we get to it or not. They cut before we get to it. The parables, this is the prodigal son parable. There's actually two parables being told with the prodigal son. One is about the lost son who goes away and comes back and has a party. The second one is about the older son. And it's actually a new parable. He actually restarts a new parable about an older son who's out in the field, whose younger son had run away. His life is unbalanced because there's a big party going on. He doesn't know what it is. So he goes to find out what the party is. And then the crisis moment of it that leads us into the climax is the dad comes out and they have the conversation. And he's like, Dad, you never threw me a party. And the dad's like, oh, come on in, please come in. And then Jesus stops telling the story. He did not tell the required scene, which is, does the brother go in and there's a confrontation, or does the brother stay out and there's a confrontation, right? There's going to be a confrontation. And Jesus stops talking. And the cool thing when you think about that is Jesus was telling this story in front of a bunch of, prostitutes and tax collectors, telling the story of the lost son. And obviously the lost son represents them. And that's their story. And he tells the ending of their story. This is what you can have, right? And then he says, he also has, it's not just them there. There's a bunch of the Pharisees and the scribes and the religious leaders are also there around the edge. And they very clearly, in my opinion, are the older son. And he tells the story, but he doesn't tell them their ending. So it's a comforting story to the afflicted. And it is an uncomfortable story to the comfortable, right? Because he doesn't tell them how they end. How they end is up to them. What are they going to do about it? Are they going to go into the house and forgive the younger brother and join the party, or are they going to choose to stay on the outside? It's their choice.
I see where you're going with this,
right? It's their choice.
Yep.
And that's kind of what Staat is doing here. Is it leads up to the actual clash, and I have two things to say about the actual clash. One is the clash is inevitable, and it pisses me off. There were a number of people who saw this when we started seeing how politics was changing back really in the Clinton era, which is what I grew up with. We started to see this shift where it became a negative. Anytime the word bipartisan became a negative,
Right.
anytime that the right said, we've got to solve this problem, here's a good solution, and the left said, yeah, that's a good solution, so let's do it, that became a negative because that is us
Right.
working together. Then when we get to the next election, the left can say, hey, we helped with that. We were doing a good thing, right? So it's better if the right says, we have a problem, here's the solution, and the left says, no, we're not going to be a part of that because that might succeed. And if that succeeds, it's going to make us look bad.
Yeah.
And it grew progressively worse. I think it's when Obama was in office that it really peaked. Of if it was a good idea, then it had to be 100% rejected by the other side. Not if it was a bad idea. If it was a good idea, it had to be rejected by the other side. And we've gotten to that point of, well, that's how we get into power. That's how we stay into power. That's how we remove the other person from power. Is we don't solve that. And why I'm pissed is because we were saying all the way, there's a bunch of people saying all the way back then, this is going to tear the country apart. This is short-term smart politics, long-term bad for our country. And now there are people who have been supportive of that method all along who are now saying, we didn't know that this would turn into a civil war. We didn't know that there'd be people who would literally try violence to overturn an election. We didn't know that there'd be people who would turn violent within their demonstrations. We didn't know that. How could we possibly predict that? Well, one of the things that they need to watch this song. One of these songs, it's inevitable. It's going to go there. It can't not go there because this is the whole point. The whole point is you're trying to get people to replace facts with feelings. You're trying to get people to replace complex ideas with simple melodies. You're trying to get them so that they can be easily manipulated. So at a drop of a hat, all you got to do is send one tweet and they're going to go, they're going to activate. And then say, oh, I didn't know that by getting them there, they might be activated in a way that I couldn't control. Idiot. You're all idiots. You're all idiots. And I'm including both sides here, people. Everybody who's participated in this idea that politics is about getting power over somebody else versus politics being about working things out together has been there. That's my sermon. So we are left with they're about to clash, and we're not shown the clash. And I think, like Jesus and the parables, we are left with the question. So what are you going to do? How is this going to end? Is it inevitable? Is it too late? Is Gaffney just too much of a pessimist that he thinks it's too late? Or can we start going, you know what? I want a complex melody. I want facts to back up what I'm feeling. I want my feeling and my facts to align, not to separate. Because feelings aren't bad. They're not wrong. And facts aren't bad, despite what some people will tell you. They're not wrong, but we need to align them. And the problem is we're not aligning. We're not aligning our truth is not aligning within all the parts of us. Yeah. So you were right. You predicted when you told me, when you warned me, hey, some point we're going to hit a political thing, and I think you're going to like it, but you're going to hate analyzing it. You're absolutely right on both of those, both of those regards. But I do think that there's a lot of truth going on in here. And again, I think Staat is using my country to talk about what's going on all over the world, including in their part of the world, which is a smart move. I don't feel offended by that at all. We get too much.
It's a good example.
Yeah,
We're a great example.
Yeah, we are. We're a great example. We're the leaders. We're the leaders of the free world, and if we're going to be providing a negative example, we're going to do it better than anybody else.
That's right. Darn it.
Darn it. Oh, darn it, and darn you for doing this to me. Okay. Let the hating in the comments begin.
Yeah, this will be interesting. we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
All right.